and I call to order council meeting number 803 of Tuesday the 8th of June. And I'd like to invite Councillor Peter Young to open our meeting with an opening prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the privilege to open the meeting with prayer. God, grant that we who would seek to serve you may have the wisdom of your Spirit, the guiding of your hand, and the grace to serve together for the prosperity of our city. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Let's be upstanding and sing our national anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea, our land abounds in nature's gift of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please be seated. Item 1, attendance and leave of absence, nil. Everyone's here. Condolences. I've got none on my list. Any late ones? None? Okay. Okay, item 3, to make it up. Got 2 Merrill minute today. So, first up, I'll move the minutes that the council budget adoption meeting be held on the 23rd of June 2021 commence at 10 a.m. and that the special budget meeting be held on 10:45 on 23rd of June 2021 to adopt the 2021-22 city contracting plan. The first one, Councillor, I seek your indulgence that we move the budget adoption back 1 hour. I've asked to speak at the Salvation Army breakfast. I'm sure some of you would want to support that, and we'll be there probably. And I don't think that hour is going to make that much of a difference. So I seek your help there and support me in the vote of the yes. The second part, I was advised by our CEO that in the preamble that it's prudent to ensure after the budget meeting we have the city contracting plan be adopted so that it can keep the wheels going. So, councillors, any other questions? Anyone else want to speak against the motion? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. Second Merrill minute. I read to you that I move that effective 30 June 2021, council membership of Councillor Mayor's SEQ Private Limited be discontinued. That council does not consider to rejoin the Council Mayor again during this term of council. That council forfeits its share in Councillor Mayor's effective 30 June 2021. That the Mayor resigns as Director of Councillor Mayor's effective 30 June, and that the Mayor writes to Councillor Mayors and the State Government advising that of the above decision and confirming the Councillor Mayors are not authorised to speak on behalf of City of the Gold Coast on any matters after the 30th of June. You good with that? Okay, so as we discussed in special budget, councillors, there's communique between the Lord Mayor and myself, and I'll work through with the City Solicitor to ensure that we have the best outcome for the City regarding the payment point of view. Any other questions? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, unanimous. We now move to confirmation of minutes. Any corrections, councillors? Someone like move for adoption? Move Councillor Hamill. A seconder, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. Next item, Mayor's report. Councillors, on May 19th, Mayor Student Ambassadors. I have the pleasure of welcoming the Student Ambassador. It is important to have an understanding, for them to have an understanding of council and how we operate, the services we provide and offer, and what's planned for the city. During the workshop, the Students Ambassador also heard from various council officers, including city lifeguards, city reputation and active and healthy, who are all incredibly passionate about our wonderful city. And it's great to have these ambassadors to basically share to the world, especially international students and domestic students, of the workings of council and the workings of our city and the lifestyle we have here. And they are very enthusiastic, and it's always a pleasure to welcoming the this year's Gold Coast Volunteering Network Morning Tea. Opportunity to thank the City Local Volunteers organisation was emceed by Councillor Vorster. Thank you for that. And no doubt you already know all this, that our volunteers are the lifeblood of our city. Without volunteering Gold Coast and all the volunteers organisation, all three tiers of government would be broke, because we wouldn't be able to afford to pay the volunteers the amount of hours and in years and events, Commonwealth Games included. And it's just so fortunate and privileged that we're able to do that and convey our sincere thanks. And I think these sort of things gives the acknowledgement that they're doing something of worth, which is really very, very true. Couldn't have a successful Commonwealth Games without the volunteers. And from that, we wouldn't have got the sports accord together with the volunteers, or the heads of sports around the world to come here. And out of that, you wouldn't even be a chance to have an Olympic bid for Southeast Queensland. So it all stems from the backbone of our community, the volunteers. Next one's inaugural Neighbourhood Watch International Conference. Wonderful to be able to welcome Neighbourhood Watch Australasia here. Is the representative organisation, and they do this by formulating strategies and policies that encourage community participation in building safe and confident communities to reduce the fear of crime and increase feeling of safety in the community. When I first became mayor, I'm the one on the left, and when I first became mayor, good on you, Luther, when I first became mayor, I have to say that I had limited knowledge and understanding of Neighbourhood Watch. I just thought, a few people who are passionate, but I didn't know how passionate they were. And my media advisor was very up on it at the time, and now continue on as our councillor. And it's one of those things that when you learn, and the more you learn, the more passionate you become about the safety of our community. Blues on Broadbeach is one of the iconic events on the Gold Coast, growing every year. We went there, and I'm not sure if I took that photo, maybe I did. It's wonderful to be able to sit there, Victoria Park, and a couple of drinks later, I enjoyed the music more, and so it's great. All the parts there, you see, I couldn't even tell you we were allowed to dance or not, but the bodies were moving, and the Gold Coast is the only place in the world who's got outdoor blues concerts, and the amount of people. Well, the report hasn't come in yet, but it'll be in tens of thousands. Congratulations to Major Events Gold Coast, Jan and her team. was visited by Israel Ambassador to Australia, His Excellency Jonathan Piled, and we were talking about various things, and he's been ambassador to El Salvador and so Mexico City, and the list goes on. Really interesting person. And I came across that we talked about Netanyahu. I know that last meeting, I think I couldn't remember the name exactly because I got mixed up with the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister's name. But you know, the sister city there, I had the Zoom with Mayor Miriam, and it's been quite good. And since then, with the ambassador, they're saying that they forged a good relationship with UAE, United Arab Emirates, and I mentioned that that Dubai and us are sister city, and they have been so for many, many years. And so out of that, I'll be having a Zoom meeting with Mayor Miriam in the next week or two. The idea there is for the three cities to work together, and we being the pin between the two, because we're the oldest sister city out of all of them, and that to learn about water management, to learn about waste management, to learn about renewable energy, and they're way ahead of other cities. And so the idea is whatever IP we have, we share, and as my father used to say, the more you give, the more you get. So the three cities will be giving to each other to have the best outcome for each of our cities. Gold Coast Business Excellence Award presentation was done in 25th of May. Thanks for Councillor Gates, Taylor, Tozer, Owen Jones being there. Not sure if anyone else was, but it's the first one for the year, 26th year the award's been done. Ian Cousins, I think he's done 24 of them, and good on Ian. And the best part, I think, as well, is that the recognition in our recent years that Business Award winners has additional marks, a couple of percent advantage for procurement into our procurement policy. So we want the best on the Gold Coast to work for the Gold Coast, and the money stays within the city. Mayoral Safety Suburb Forum, Councillor Taylor, Vorster and Patterson was there, and took the opportunity to welcome Acting Chief Superintendent Reece Wildman, and to hear him to the forum, to hear him for the first time. We discuss on myriad of things, as we always do, when it comes to safety suburbs, and you know, where there's graffiti, where the I think what do you call that, Councillor Worcester, that they use and sniff, coning or something?
Chroming, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
You see, so and he's been writing to state government. The good announcement that we're getting there. The graffiti budget has come down, was 1.5 million in 2010-11. Now it's about 600,000 last year, because I can't discuss this year's budget. Otherwise, it's anyhow. So we're in good hands. We talked about domestic violence as well, and some wonderful work's being done there. I'd like to make special mention of the city CCTV operator, Thomas Goodyear, who was awarded a Queensland Police Service District Award. Thomas was acknowledged for his contribution to a live police investigation that led to multiple arrests. This award demonstrates the exceptional skills of our team, public safety outcomes achieved by the SCN, and the city's strong partnership with police. This award relates to just one of the 8,000 incidents captured each year. So when we do our budget for CCTV, camera and monitoring, it really has helped tremendously when it comes to safety in our city. Then we launched the 10th Bleach Festival. and the launch is done, but book in your diary, 12th to the 22nd of August. I got in already and booked some tickets in there, and I didn't know so many things clash, so I won't be able to go to a lot of it. But I'll end up, I think, at Mudgeeraba to go in between those sheds. So anyhow, trying to go to every part of the city and really lap up the Gold Coast cultural spirit. Then I met up. I'm looking forward to it. Warm clothes, I'd imagine too, eh? And then I met up with Minister Leanne Enoch, Minister for Communities and Housing, and Minister for Digital Economy, and Minister for the Arts. And it was a great pleasure to show her around the gallery. We discussed sharing artworks between state's major art galleries. So I said that what we show in our gallery, which is huge, it's only 4% of our work. So another 96% is in storage. And I said, extrapolate that. How many artwork is in Brisbane in Goma storage that is not being used? So she's agreed that she's going to work behind the background to get some good pieces up here. And at the federal level, I can't see why Blue Pole shouldn't be coming up here. And let's have a look and let's work on that. And I know that was quite controversial when the federal government, Prime Minister Gough bought that. And if you look at Google, I think he paid $6 million and now it's worth 200 or 300. So anyhow, I wish if there's another Blue Pole out there, we should get some. Yeah, right. And then I had a meeting with Police Minister Mark Ryan, Police Commissioner Katharina Carroll, and also QFES Commissioner Lynch, and talking about update on resourcing a facility for the City North. We did talk about the extensive CCTV camera. More announcement will be coming out. The Minister announced on that day that we got another 35 new police for the City North. Will be based at the new station in Pimpama, and QFES Commissioner was outlining. I brought up about the Blackburn operation, so their officer and our officer will talk. And it was a great opportunity to invite the 2 commissioner and 1 minister down to present the National Emergency Medals. And the National Emergency Medal was established by Queen Elizabeth II in 2011 to recognise persons that have rendered sustained and significant service during nationally significant emergency in Australia. And all those people had a part in it, and all those people, except for the dignitary, got awarded the medal. And it's a national level medal, and congratulations to our officer. Reception of celebration for 75th anniversary of Republic of Italy, and went up by the invitation of the Consul of Italy in Brisbane, I think Salvatore Neapolitan, and not the ice cream, but he's very cool, you know, and went up there, had a wonderful evening, celebration for 160 years since unification of Italy, 60-year anniversary of institution of the Consul of Italy in Brisbane. It's wonderful, and well, of course, our large Italian community on the Gold Coast made their way up as well, because Councillor Castro and I were there, and we were not short of friends to talk to, you know. Yeah. There were a lot of Sicilian there, eh? So he made some offer they couldn't refuse. The Maroons. Next item, the Maroons. Yes. Yeah, the photo the photo on the screen going from one favourite girl of mine to another. Amazing. Our deputy mayor joined the Maroons, squad training. She trained the pants off him, not literally. And it was wonderful to see she got her personal Guernsey. And she announced that the Maroons set up their origin camp on the Gold Coast for all 3 games. And they've chosen a resort here, which is, I won't say. But the first game, of course, is in Townsville. And Councillor Gates made a kind offer to put $50 up, which I accept. So I'll be coming and collect, I think. Right. Apart from that item, I think we'll agree with all the other items. All right. I'll just move that the mayor's report be noted. Second, Councillor Gates. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carried. Take welcome out. Right. Clarification. I've got a couple here, councillors. Yeah. I did mention in our special budget, but it was enclosed, so I thought I say so at full council, which is where it's appropriate. First one, Friday, I refer to local paper, Friday, June the 4th, entitled City's $1.6 million backflip. No? It says there, 1, 2, 3, the 4th paragraph, William Owen Jones, Peter Young, Glenn Tozer, Daphne McDonald and Gail O'Neill backed the officers' report. Mayor Tom Tate did not vote. Checked our record. I thought it was interesting. I always vote. So a front page apology would be nice. And it does say Councillor Patterson and Cameron Caldwell was absent. So apart from the idea of the backflip, I'm not so sure. Let me read Cambridge dictionary here, right? English being my second language, about backflip, right? To completely change your opinion or decision about something. Well, you can't change an opinion when you haven't made an opinion. So once I'll go to the next one, another one. Here we go. Tuesday, June the 8th. Council backflips over tipping point. Right? So as in the last 24 hours, local media commenced on issue being discussed at special budget from a source, whatever source that is. I made it clear the council's special budget process involved council examining and debating around, I don't know, about 5,000 pages. And these individual items are made up, the budget will be around $1.8 billion. For media to report the council has backflipped on any decision during the process is factually wrong. A decision made through a special budget are only ever ratified when full council votes on the annual budget. That's when we make the decision. And in this case, tune in on June 23rd. Is that right? June 23rd? Yeah, we'll all be here. So therefore, it is impossible for council to backflip, according to my source is Cambridge Dictionary, and on the matter of no decision are finalised until that date. It'd be like this. I have a source that the city rate's going to go up similar to post-2011. It's going to be around 10%. That's my source. I go out and write about it and all that. And then it comes in that it's less than 3 for whatever reason. And then I go, well, what a champion I am to put pressure on council and got them to go from 10% down to 3. I'm a real champion of the city. You know what? You've got any courage out there, the journalists who does sort of sourcing and writing bullshit, let's say, be clear, put your name on the ballot. That's all. So, and the other thing is backflip. Yeah, I've seen the journalists backflipping when we used to play touch against each other, when I touch them a bit hard. That's true. Right. That's my clarification. Business arising from the minutes. Any business arising from the minutes? None. This is the best part, presentation. Joe, you're up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As the Mayor said previously, the National Emergency Medal was established by Queen Elizabeth II in October 2011 to recognise persons that have rendered sustained or significant service during nationally significant emergencies in Australia. Tropical Cyclone Debbie was a severe weather event that hit the City of Gold Coast in March 2017. The city's Disaster Management Unit, Local Disaster Management Group and a Local Disaster Coordination Centre were all activated for sustained periods before, during and after the immediate event. During the cyclone, the LGMG and the LDCC managed and coordinated the city's emergency response, which included multi-agency collaboration, evacuation and relief centre operations and resupply operations for isolated communities. The city's local recovery group continued to manage recovery operations for the months after the event. So it's my great honour to present the National Emergency Medal to Mayor Tate, Chairperson of the LGMG, Deputy Mayor Councillor Gates, Deputy Chairperson of the LGMG, Elton Twine, Director Transport and Infrastructure and the Local Disaster Coordinator, Alison Ewens, Director Lifestyle and Community Local Recovery Coordinator. All four put in countless hours and showed great leadership in the protection of our lives and property of the Gold Coast residents. So it's now my pleasure to make the presentations, Mr Mayor. First. Do a group one? Councillor Gates. Alison. Elton.
Congratulations. Congratulations, mate. No, I just do the last word there for two things. One, it was an absolute surprise to me when Elton came and showed me the medal. I went, oh, but that's the immediate thought in my head I share with you. I reflect on the team we've built on the disaster management, and that and I, at the time I didn't even know who else got the medal. I just thought, oh, look at that, and I went, oh yeah, this is really Team Gold Coast has shined. We can count so many disasters, and we've done exercise and the amount of hours well above their working hours, and so for this recognition, I mean, I'm looking at the build of the team and councillors supporting with the budget and moving ahead, and then later on when I learned that, oh, by the way, our officers during the Cyclone Debbie who served all that time are being recognised too. I couldn't get much more joy to have learned about that. And when Minister Mark Ryan was talking to me, and we were walking out with two commissioners, police commissioner and Mark was saying, "Oh, you don't understand how rare it is. You know, for council normally, it's somebody in the SES who's out there firefighting so long and half burnt, and they're the one who gets awarded the national medal." And and the police commissioner Carroll said, "Look, 40 years I've been on both sides. I was commissioner SES, and here I don't have one." Right? I'm going, oh, okay, and the new commissioner turned with a big grin. He has a couple of barbs, but he's got the bar, the first one on the right, which is the one he cherishes the most, is this one. So that's when it brought it to my. I mean, I'm a little bit oblivious about awards and things, but when they highlighted that, the joy, even the appreciation and the joy on behalf of the city, so it's even more. Anyhow, that's where I had Councillor Gates.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just feel that I should rise on behalf of all councillors to acknowledge the incredible amount of work that you've put in to the Disaster Management Unit. And I know the directors will support me in this because it's been an amazing turnaround in terms of interest and participation under your leadership. All of the agencies, very rarely do we get apologies. Everyone's there participating, and through Oswald and Debbie and bushfire and other near misses that we've had over recent years, you've always been at the helm and done an amazing job for our city. So congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Vorster, what have you say here?
Just changing tack, Mr Mayor, and just paying homage to some Italian roots. Let me say this. Buongiorno Sindaco, sono molto lieto di presentare questo premio. Veramente sono molto orgoglioso del lavoro della città. And Mr Mayor...
For the benefit of OIA, can you say it in English?
He can do it in Swahili as well.
and I merely say that because obviously I'm part of the Sicilian cohort here at Council. But I did want to say good morning, Mr Mayor. Very pleased today to present this award, and I think, speak on behalf of all councillors, very proud of the work that goes on here at the city. And now switching over to English, today what I'd like to do, Mr Mayor, is present you, along with the responsible city officers, with the 2021 Traveller's Choice Award presented by TripAdvisor. Now, TripAdvisor, of course, is a commercial company. It's not a government. It's certainly not a selection committee headed by Her Majesty. But importantly, Mr Mayor, TripAdvisor has a role to play in shepherding tourists to our city, and they're a massive stakeholder. So when they recognise our offering in a commercial sense, we should also consider it quite an honour to receive. And what this award does, Mr Mayor, is recognise that our campgrounds and tourist parks have been recognised in the top 10% globally. The top 10%. And that should just point to the incredible standard of experience that is offered by the city to visitors here. And just to put that into context, Mr Mayor, the caravanning industry is worth $24 billion and domestically is responsible for about 58 visitor nights. This is not an inconsequential segment of the tourism sector. And what our officers have done is really risen to that opportunity, put the city's best foot forward, and they've been recognised by the people through TripAdvisor, who are responsible for aggregating those recommendations. And I know later in the Lifestyle and Community Committee, there'll be a related recommendation, but I think without foreshadowing that decision, we should have every confidence that the team behind us working in this business unit do a great job. And Mr Mayor, again, I'd like to present this to you along with Heather and Richard, our responsible city officers.
Okay. Right, we now go to item 9, conflict of interest declaration. No, there's nil. So let's go to item 10. 10.1, transport infrastructure, Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 1st of June 2021, covered by recommendations 1 to 7, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Any items you wish to deal separately, councillors? Councillor Pauline Young.
I move that the minutes of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee's recommendations be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carried, unanimous. Thank you, Director. We now go to Lifestyle and Community. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I rise to move the following, that the minutes of the Lifestyle and Community Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 1st of June, covered by recommendations 1 through 7, be received. Thank you.
Okay, and seconder, Councillor Ryan Belden Lumsden. Sorry, I get your first name mixed up. Okay, and put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Any items you want to deal separately, councillors? Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Lifestyle and Community Committee meeting held on the 1st of June 2021, covered by recommendations numbered 1 through 7, be adopted. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Belden Lumsden. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry, unanimous. Right, we now go to, you're staying, okay, can't have enough, huh? Rightio, what we'll do, we go to economic tourism and events, and that's Councillor Castro, seconder, Councillor Gates. Put the motion, am I right? You're going to say the motion? Move La Castro, can you just read out the motion?
Yes, as in moving the minutes, yes.
Moving the acceptance.
Yes, Mr Mayor, yes. I move the minutes of the Economy, Tourism and Events Committee meeting, which was held on Wednesday the 2nd of June 2021, covered by recommendations 1 to 3. So, stand up.
So Gates and La Castro, first and second. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Item 3, I reckon, like a mind reader, Councillor Gates.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. In regard to item 3, at committee, we deferred the matter for some legal advice and a discussion about the possible establishment of a subcommittee to consider grant funding for the city. That's not at issue today, but I do have a changed recommendation which the Minute Secretary has. That doesn't change anything, doesn't change any timeframes, still establishes the panel, but any recommendations from that panel will come back to council via
Okay.
the Governance,
I'll get a
Administration
seconder.
and
I'll get a
Finance
seconder
Committee.
and you speak on it.
Sure.
Okay, do I have a seconder, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Pauline Young.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It was simply so that council has an overview of the recommendations from the panel that is being established under the guidance of Director Alison Ewens. We have every confidence in the Director steering the guiding of this tourism grant funding. It's simply that it was felt at the committee level that there was support at the committee level for the matter to come back to council simply for endorsement once the recommendations were made. So the appropriate committee, as discussed between then and now, was the proposed new governance administration with finance added to it, which is indicated in this this changed recommendation. The way forward, Mr Mayor, is clear. It doesn't change any of the timeframes. There was concern expressed that making any change might change the time that we have available to actually make the grant funding decision. This doesn't change anything. It simply changes the process slightly so that council has an overview.
I see. Okay. Question, Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is actually through you to the Director. Is it proposed then that this board of selectors, or what are we calling them? Panel, might have their recommendations overturned by council if we subjectively didn't agree with the creative process or creative intent of the project?
Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So, I mean, that's not the idea, I guess. It's an independent panel who'll make their recommendations based on a set of criteria. We'll present that criteria and this scoring to council, and it could get overturned, but ideally it wouldn't. Ideally, the council would accept the recommendations of the panel.
Right. That answers my question. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone speak against the motion? Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question through you to the Director. Could I just seek some guidance from the Director whether council endorsement of let's call it a suite of investments into the sector, is that broadly consistent with our newly endorsed public art policy that sees higher order cultural investments subject to a council decision at the upper end of the scale?
Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, the principle's the same. I think what the public art policy does is have the different financial thresholds, which this doesn't do. This is obviously a much lower amount, but the principles are the same, so yes.
Okay. Councillor.
Mr Mayor, if you're comfortable taking speakers against, I'm happy to speak against.
Yeah, okay.
You let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead, I'm ready.
Mr Mayor, I think this is moving into effectively creative oversight from a bunch of publicly elected figures, and I'm not sure that's the way we should go. For many years now, we've partnered with the state government in order to deliver the Regional Arts Development Fund, and I think those RADF grants are a really great model for us. They are under that financial threshold that enables us to empower a group of experienced creative professionals to provide insight direct to industry through council and state funding. That's how the RADF grant works. This particular one is similar, although it is intended, as far as I can see, to marry up the creative industries and tourism industries together under a certain financial threshold. I think that financial threshold offers a level of safety for council, and I'm not convinced that our collective interest in creative, although each of us have some experience and creative interest, I don't think it's really right in this program for us to exercise that creative oversight. Frankly, I do think that larger threshold that is identified in the public art policy, it does make sense for us to get involved in those bigger infrastructure projects, and that relates more to asset maintenance and management of those large pieces of public art that we as a council have to maintain often for many years down the track. This particular program appears to me to be intended to stimulate a partnership between the arts and culture sector and tourism, and frankly I think we should wholeheartedly empower creative professionals from our city to engage direct with industry rather than us taking that creative oversight. I think that will put downward pressure on potentially creative ideas coming out, because the perception will be that a bunch of politicians respectfully, might dampen the enthusiasm of the creative arts sector in a program like this. I know that it's not the intent of any of my colleagues or my own intent in any way, but I think the perception from the arts and culture sector would be that, frankly, I think the officer's recommendation to fully endorse the creative panel to make recommendations about what is right, in the same way that the RADF grant program is run, is the right way forward for this program.
For the motion, Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and I will endeavour to keep it brief. I think on the issue of public perception around Council's investment and support of the cultural sector, we can all, I think, point to the building opposite the chamber. I firmly believe that this council, perhaps more than any other predecessor council, can hold the moral high ground in terms of our support for the cultural sector, because we've actually put a multi-million-dollar investment and a full master plan to achieve the sort of, or to create the environment to enliven the aspirations of the cultural community for the benefit of the whole of the Gold Coast. So I cannot support the argument of Councillor Tozer, although I do acknowledge that he's got a connection to the creative industry and probably brings a meritorious view. It's just not, I don't think, the view that would be collectively held by the city. But principally, Mr Mayor, the reason why I do support this is because of the motions link to a related motion, recommendation, and then a position of council to strengthen the governance arrangements around the issuing of RADF grants. So we have on the books a resolution that calls for the tightening of governance arrangements to make sure that every allocation is defensible. So to the extent that grants come through the governance committee, I think that we actually achieve council's position, which is to ensure that there's good governance around the selection process. And I think what that does is add to the integrity of the process. And because the process has more integrity, I think that any decision that we arrive at is more defensible. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Speaking against the motion, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is actually through you to the City Solicitor in relation to conflicts of interest. If this program, in previous meetings we've had conversations about friends, the friendship relationship, and I'm trying to get some information about this because I have lots of close connections in the creative arts industry. My question is directly to the solicitor, and it is, would my personal relationships with members of the creative arts sector or any of my colleagues preclude them from engaging in a full council decision about this because it's an allocation of funding?
Yeah, just let me touch on that. My first view, it wouldn't preclude them. It may preclude Councillor Tozer voting on it. Am I right?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, you're correct. It certainly wouldn't preclude anybody from applying for grant funding because they have a friendship with you, Councillor Tozer. However, when the matter came before council, you would need to, like any other matter, consider whether or not you had a close personal relationship with those individuals and if you did declare a conflict of interest.
I understand. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Speaking against the motion, Councillor Castro.
Mr Mayor, look, my views are somewhat different to my reasons for not supporting the motion are a little different to Councillor Tozer's, although I understand where he's coming from. Mr Mayor, just for me, it's just a simple matter of I just think that we are better removed from these sort of processes. In that I've argued for many years, it's a bit like the tender process. Years ago, councillors were involved in tender processes, and I always thought that was a very dangerous situation to be in, where we would decide who would actually win a tender. I believe that we should be at arm's length from that sort of thing, and that's why I'm not supporting the motion before us, Mr Mayor. So
Okay.
It was very brief.
Okay. For the motion, I'll just put a little bit for the motion and then I'll go to Councillor Gates to close. Primarily, first up, I absolutely trust the judgment of all our councillors. And when it comes to governance and governance to oversee this governance, I think it's it's a great safety net to make sure that the governance part is streamlined. The second part is that, you know, I do reflect out of the 9.5 years that the one thing that slipped through my hands is the Yatala lights, you know, and I don't want to open old wounds, but if this sort of thing was in place, I would say those lights would be similar to the lights down at Chugan, where you don't have any complaints at all. We would have trimmed Gold Coast down to GC, found another location. But for those of you who were not here, all I could say is I don't want to make the same slip up. Not call it a mistake because, but you know, some artists' objectives. You know, maybe as I'm driving past, I just cheer myself up and. So I said I'll be shorter. This gives me more comfort, that's all. Councillor Gates, to you to close.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor, and I have no doubt that the creative professionals' view will not only be respected by councillors but probably supported in most instances. But you have raised an old wound that's very fresh in my mind as the representative for that area and probably the recipient of a lot more criticism than most because of the location. I think, in addition, the community is very well served by having councillors have oversight of the recommendations. We are the level of government closest to the people. We do have our ears to the ground, and there are times when information comes to us as the area's representative that may not be in the possession of the creative professionals. So wonderful to see an additional level of support for the tourism industry. I hope that we get some great applications that do actually improve our overnight stays, and here's to another fine initiative of the council in promoting the arts and tourism.
Debate's closed. Councillor, put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried.
Mr Mayor, may I be noted in the negative,
Matter of fact, I'll just call it again. Well, I'll call division this time, so we got it there and we can note everyone. All in favour, show of hands.
Councillor Tate, Councillor Taylor, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Gates, Councillor O'Neill, sorry, Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald, Councillor Bartolomson, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Forster.
Against?
Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Castro.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Any other items you want to deal separately? Councillor Patterson?
Item 5, Mr Mayor.
Yep. If you don't have any medical issue, you'll have to stand up.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. I believe we'll have to go into closed for this one. On the basis... What is the basis?
Local government budget.
Local government budget. As on the...
Yes, the local government's budget.
Thank you.
Just pause
And
it. Just pause
yeah,
there for a
sorry.
minute. Mr CEO, this is already, it's not grey.
The item
Huh?
the item
The item's grey, okay. All right, we'll go to close. Motion moved by, I assume by you, procedural motion due to budget. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Castro.
Thank you.
Councillor, put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Yep.
The Minutes Secretary inadvertently deleted a provision that is justification for us to go into closed session, which was about negotiations relating to commercial matter.
Okay,
So I
well,
think that should be recorded
that's even
now.
better. Okay. Can we, all those things on the screen? Leave it all there? Can have more than one, we can have more than one reason, can't we? Whack them all in. something's got to... Is that it? You happy with that, Joe? All right, we've got this one. So move Councillor Patterson, seconder Councillor Castro. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. We're now open. Streaming, I hope. Yeah? Okay. Councillor Patterson, you have a motion to move.
Yes, Mr Mayor. So the motion here that's being moved regarding the Gold Coast Show Society and to ensure that our Gold Coast show can continue. It's a very important, special part of the Gold Coast culture, very important to people's families.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Peter Young. And just on that, Mr CEO, there was a declaration, was there or not? Can you put it on the
Put it on
screen?
the screen just so it's recognised in open, Mr Mayor.
Yes,
That's happening.
on the screen, Councillor Patterson did declare, receive personal interest, and then we had a motion there, which also on the screen, that she may stay in the room. Now we have a motion afoot. I'll ask Councillor Patterson to speak on the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's been a pretty interesting ride for the Gold Coast Show since they had to leave their original space, moving to the Turf Club and most recently to the Broadwater Parklands. There is a very dedicated volunteer group that are committed that this 115-year history continues to the future. The council, the city recognises that and supports that. We also recognise that by funding this, as they're not quite yet at a self-sustainable model, that we need to recognise the value of ratepayers' money. And from next year in this agreement, it's identifying that is quite clear, that there must be a presentation of a financially sustainable delivery model of the Gold Coast Show. So be delighted to attend the Gold Coast Show later this year and look forward to them finding a suitable way to be sustainable going forward.
Okay. Speaking against the motion? Anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Peter Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, happy to support the motion, and I note that the original location of the Gold Coast Show was Southport, and now effectively it's returned to its home. And I think we've done a great job in the last few years supporting the Gold Coast Show, but I'm just as keen to make sure it's the Gold Coast Show, not the Gold Coast Council show. And so it's incumbent upon the operators, the board, to get the support from the city broadly, whether that's industry or other commerce, and the community. That's a very important element of its longevity. From my point of view, there's just no comparison between the Gold Coast Show and the Mudgeeraba Show. Both are fabulous events in our calendar, and both should earn our support. One aspect of the Gold Coast Show that is differentiated from the Mudgeeraba Show is the accreditation that's given to judging and competitors. So if you're a competitor in a particular event, let's say it's cake baking, then you'll get a different number of points for that, or let's say show jumping, you'll get different points for that than you would at the Mudgeeraba Show. And in terms of the state classifications and being able to enter at a state level, for example, at the ECA, you need those points. So the Gold Coast Show is an important element in the whole show echelon, if you like, or structure. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay. I'll go back to Councillor Patterson to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Councillor Young aptly put, the Gold Coast Show is the Gold Coast Show. It is not the council's show, and it is really important that this amazing volunteer group work out a way to be sustainable in the future. But we recognise right now it has been a difficult time, and council has come to provide some support once again whilst they get through this period. It's a very important part of our history. Many people have taken their families to the Gold Coast Show over generations. We look forward to them firmly finding their feet so it can continue for many years to come.
Okay. All right, councillors, the debate's closed. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. You want to record it? Or? All right, so Mr CEO, do we have to write to the state government to ensure that our Gold Coast Show Day is locked in? We better make sure of that. We want to have time to go to the show. And I'm told it's free. Right. Any other items? Councillor Castro.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move the minutes of the Economy, Tourism and Events Committee recommendations be adopted with the exceptions of items 3 and 5, which were separately resolved.
Seconder, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. We're now going to Planning and Environment. Councillor Caldwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Planning and Environment Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 3rd of June 2021, covered by recommendations 1 to 4, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. We'll go to item 3 first. Right, any decoration, anyone? No? Good. Anyone want to deal with 3? We'll deal with it? Okay. Councillor Caldwell, do you want to move the
Yep, I'm happy to move it.
seconder? Councillor Owen Jones, you need to speak further on that? No. Councillor Peter Young? No. Let's put it to the vote. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. You want that recorded? No. All good? Right. So we go to item 4. Councillor Gates.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I made the declarations on the screen at committee and I will be leaving the room for both item 4 and 5.
Okay. Anyone else got declarations on item 4? Councillor Caldwell, item 4.
Happy to move the committee recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Would you like to speak further on that, Councillor Caldwell?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Against, anyone? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. You want it recorded? Could you please record Councillor Peter Young and Councillor Vorster in the negative? We go to 5. Councillor Caldwell.
Happy to move the committee recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Owen Jones. You want to speak further on that, Councillor Caldwell?
No, Mr Mayor.
Anyone want to speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carry. Would you like to record it? Could you please record Councillor Peter Young in the negative? Councillor Caldwell, back to you.
Mr Mayor, we can probably invite Councillor Gates back in.
Okay.
And the only items that remain are
1 and 2.
1 and 2. So shouldn't be too controversial, wouldn't have thought.
Let's see if you can jag it.
Yep, she's back in the chamber.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Councillor Gates.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move the minutes of the Planning and Environment Committee's recommendations to be adopted with the exception of items 3, 4 and 5 that were separately resolved.
Seconder, Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Thank you, Director. We now go to Governance and Administration. Councillor Owen Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the minutes of the Governance and Administration Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 3rd of June, covered by recommendations 1 to 4, be received.
Seconder, Councillor McDonald. Put the motion to you.
So
1 to
4
5.
recommendations, 5 items, Mr Mayor.
So 1 to 5, yeah? Received.
4 recommendations, but there were 5 items, because the 5th item's the conflict of interest where there was no recommendation.
All right, okay. So let's put a motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Any items you wish to deal with first?
Yes, Mr Mayor, if we could just deal with item 4, please, for a minor correction to some words. So
We're going to item 4, councillors. 4 or 5?
So item 5, sorry.
5.
And if we could add that the committee recommendation GA 2106080004 be adopted with the correction of part 3, Roman numeral 1, such that it reads in its entirety as follows. And I won't read it out in its entirety as follows, Mr Mayor, but we've changed the words to reflect what was discussed at committee, which was that it be referred to as city economy rather than city economic development.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Caldwell.
Mr Mayor, I just wanted to clarify, with that change in reporting lines, what the intention was in terms of the reporting through to committees. So so the city planning component, which is health and knowledge, would report to P&E committee,
Yep.
is that right?
Yep.
And then the city economy stuff will continue to report to ETE?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone speak against? Councillor John, you want to close?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank the Acting CEO for putting forward the organisational changes, and I think we congratulated him on the day for getting on with it, Mr Mayor, because there isn't a day to waste.
Wonderful. Okay, let's have a unanimous on this one. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried, unanimous. Congratulations, Mr CEO. It's good work.
Oi. Yeah, that's the best.
So, Mr Mayor, I move the minutes of the Governance and Administration Committee's recommendations be adopted with the exception of item 5, which was separately resolved.
Seconder, Councillor Patterson. Put the motion to all in favour, show of hands. Against? Carry unanimous. That was a yes, right? Yeah.
Joe's got the colour
unanimous.
He doesn't care.
Classic. Consideration notice of motion, it's nil. Questions on notice is nil. Presentation of petitions is nil. General business is nil. Other business, this is the good one. Loan borrowings. Mr CEO, you want to speak on that?
Briefly, Mr Mayor, so this is the formal approval by council for us to approach QTC to borrow the money for 2021, so the current year. And just briefly on page 7, it's identified that we'll now borrow nearly 112.5 million. The initial budget, including reprovisions, we're proposing to borrow almost 140. March budget review was about 129, so it's a reduction from those two figures. We're only borrowing what we actually need to borrow at this point in time, Mr Mayor.
Okay. I move the motion. Seconder, Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. The only comment there is that it's good to see that the debt level, 635, as at 30 June 2021, is 50 million lower than it was 10 years ago. So we're working within our credit limit. Councillors, since there's no other item, the meeting closed at 12:09.